Everybody hates Twitter, but despite everything, I still like it. And that's largely because I believe it is still the #1 place to follow and especially discover new talented artists across any style or niche you can think of. I think it's really cool that today anybody with enough skill and passion can use their art to reach thousands or even millions of fans. But having such a big audience and immersing yourself in Twitter's unique user base can come with some downsides as well, especially when you consider the kinds of people that Spotlight is often thrust upon. Yes, if there's one thing that comes to mind when you hear the term Twitter artist, beyond the work itself, it's how bizarrely common insane drama and controversy is in the space. And well, that's what we're here for today, to find out why this is such a common problem by delving into the stories behind some of Twitter's all-time most infamous art accounts.
Okay. Twitter rage bait off to a great start.
Joining Twitter in early 2020, C-Fix's art, or Cena, was a 22-year-old, body-positive, LGBTQ+ Muslim obese feminist non-binary artist who, as she put it, creates
Anything else you want to add to that label? Like, god damn, like, what the hell? that's way too much for one person to have.
art for the purpose of fighting fat phobia. Well, actually, creates might be a bit inaccurate. As you can guess from the name, Cena isn't known for the few original pieces she made, but rather for how they take other people's art and fix it, like you see here. Her MO was to take any vaguely titillating piece of art and basically morph everyone into a morbidly obese brown person, giving them breast reduction surgery and completely covering up any even slightly revealing outfit. Cena really burst onto the scene with her adaptation of the character Usagi-chan. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Usagi-chan anime was basically like the poor man's Nagatoro, and when her anime premiered, her unique design garnered a lot of criticism, especially on Twitter. So the idea of
What even happened to that show? I remember a lot of people were obsessed with it. I even saw it on my feed every once in a while, but after that it just kind of vanished. What happened to it?
her design really isn't the most controversial or out there idea ever, even if Cena's adaptation is just as objectionable for its own reasons.
I really don't know how to put this, but he looks like some kind of fat, gay, pregnant dog or something. It's hard to describe.
From here, Cena would continue.
It's not that hard to describe.
At an impressive
It's
rate,
just
turning
ass.
countless waifus into visual cognitohazards using that classic Tumblr art style. Now, to be honest, looking back at this whole thing, I don't really think there's anything inherently wrong with her doing this. The art is hard to look at, but at the end of the day, it's really
Hey,
just
you
some
said
fan
it.
art of a show filtered through her own specific tastes. And I think people would at worst laugh at this and move on. But what propelled Cena to true infamy was the way they decided to respond to any criticism they were getting for this. My take on Momo from My Hero Academia. Honestly, pretty nasty that they designed a 16-year-old like this. Very gross and nasty. Don't draw your female teen OCs like this, please. To add to the discussion, yes, I do believe I fixed the art. If you don't, you're just another cum-brain pedo weeb. Sorry,
Ooh.
truth hurts. By making videos on my fix and constantly retweeting to dunk on me, you have all inadvertently given me all the attention my beautiful art deserves. If this was rage, it was expertly crafted and resulted in an immense amount of pushback, with multiple very popular videos and endless seething replies. Notably, in response, people would fix Cena's art of her own Sona, making her all kawaii and skinny, and she'd always complain and block them, despite it being the very same thing she was doing to other artists. And the true
Hypocrisy at its finest.
where even the most ardently progressive members of art Twitter turned on them, came when Cena moved on from reinterpreting anime characters to defiling their fellow artists' posts. The most well-known coming when C-Fix art by Creepshow Art, and at the time pretty popular artist and YouTuber who's nowadays even more maligned than she is. Only this wasn't just any art, it was a commissioned Creepshow did as a portrait of a real-life fan of hers, which made the whole thing really weird, like as if this real-life person is wrong in Cena's eyes and needed to be fixed. Creepshow would quickly respond, maybe don't use commissioned work of a subscriber because they quite literally do not look like this. Also, the idea of fixing art is lame. Then Cena replies, thanks for the retweet. You really need to work on your poses. They're very stiff and ugly. Shading with purple is a no-go too. Smiley face. Oh my god, I can tell why people hated this person. I actually got pissed off reading that.
Either
This played
she's
well, the
really
popular video was
delusional or
made up by
like
artsy silly
genuinely
people
that
and call out
stupid.
posts from slighted artists. Cena had developed a hatedom that in number far outweighed most normal popular art accounts. And it was very soon after this, at the peak of her infamy, that the legend of C-Fix's art would come to an abrupt end at the end of the very year she had appeared, when in October of 2020 the C-Fix's art account was hacked. The
Oh,
hacker renamed the account to Cena Loves Fat Phobia and proceeded to absolutely decimate the profile. They began by publishing Cena's blocked terms, which bizarrely had a lot of the things they claimed to support, such as LGBT and BLM. And most notably, whomever the hacker was happened to be somewhat of an artist themselves, and used their skills to produce and post multiple NSFW art pieces of Cena on the compromised account, as well as inviting anyone else who wanted to contribute, like those from 4chan's artwork critique board, to submit their own mocking caricatures. As for the reaction to this,
talking
it
about
seemed
a
people were
strike
pretty
back.
split. Some thought it was absurd, since Cena had to face so many other artists for not fitting their preferences, that they'd have their own account similarly corrupted, whilst others thought the hacker took things way too far by looting what's presumably a real-life representation of Cena. It didn't last
Unlikely.
too long though, as after a few days the C-Fix's art account was fully deleted. Whether by the hacker or because of all the people reporting it is unknown. And after
I'd say
that, our
both.
brave little art fixer disappeared, never to be heard from again. So who the hell was Cena really, and why did they never return under a new account, despite seeming so passionate and active before? Well, there is one theory out there that I think makes everything make sense, and that is the idea that Cena never really existed, and this whole account was just one big troll. First off, their whole character
It is
seems
possible, yeah.
too wild to be true. I mean, the outdated stereotypical Tumblr art style, the proverbial minority bingo card, that is their bio, along with their exact height and weight.
Not to mention the crazy amount of like labels on themselves, like Jesus, full on Bible reading time.
The fact their About Me post says they're pro-feminism but anti-politics and doctors for some reason. And there's the fact
Doctors.
Cena almost exclusively targeted, at the time, popular anime franchises for their fixes like JoJo and My Hero Academia, yet at the same time, their posts never expressed they were a fan of those shows or any anime for that matter.
Yeah.
It really seems like their goal was to get it viewed by as many fans of the shows as possible to garner outrage and attention. And it's so weird they'd exclusively redraw characters to be fat and black in an attempt to desexualize them, which, as some have pointed out, does that not imply fat and brown people are inherently unattractive in their eyes? Finally, there's the convenience of the hack itself. It just so happened to come as they were at the peak of their infamy, but things were starting to get old. Almost like the real person behind the posts got bored or knew they'd be caught soon, so decided to stage a hack to end the tale. A lot of people claim that the art style of
Seems
the hacker's
reasonable.
drawings of Cena and her own art have suspiciously similar art styles. You can see comparisons on screen now, and yeah, they really do line up. To me, it looks like the hacker's art is the real art style, and Cena's was them like purposefully drawing worse. Yet at the same time, certain unique traits like their weird blush highlights, the poor line art, and terrible shading carry over. Like, I don't know, it's just awfully convenient that the person who had the know-how and drive to hack them would not only be another artist, but one who has such a similar art style. The real smoking gun for me came from this video, where the artist says you can only see unsent tweets saved as a draft if you are on the device they were written on. So the hacker showing off Cena's unsent tweets like they did would be literally impossible, unless of course there was no hacker and this is the person who created the account and the Cena persona in the first place. Finally,
So they
it's
really
said the
were
hacker
burning
plugged
bridges.
their own not safe for work Patreon before the account was fully taken down. I personally could not find direct evidence of this, but if it is true,
Sounded well
could the
editing, lol.
C-Fix's art account from the start been a troll by some random smut artist who just wanted to mess with Twitter by playing the most stereotypical SJW strawman they could conceive of, and then used the attention to promote their own account once they got bored of it? Every artist we'd be looking at today encapsulates a different part of Twitter's culture, and I think C-Fix's art, better than any other, perfectly represents the concept of rage bait, purposefully acting stupid and inflammatory just for the sake of attention, no matter how negative it may be.
Yeah.
And this was all long before the days of Twitter Premium, so they did this purely for the love of the game. which in a way I do respect.
Stone Toss. Twitter politics.
So, Stone Toss is essentially the modern day reincarnation of those old political cartoons in webcomic form. With literally thousands of strips to his name, Stone Toss has the unique distinction of making a handful of comics that became extremely popular as memes and exploitables.
Oh yeah,
It's
this
very
meme.
Fallen Chungus-esque in that sense. But really, he's known as the right-wing cartoonist guy, although his most popular works are either apolitical or repurposed as memes that are so far removed from their context that aspect is removed, which I think is no coincidence. Now, one thing you hear a lot of people say when defending Stone Toss is, I might not agree with the messages, but his comics are really funny. And I kind of used to believe that myself, but for this video, I decided to go through a bunch of his comics, and not just the ones that so happened to leak into my non-political side of the internet. I basically sat down and read a huge number of his comics using the randomized feature on his site, and I'll have a bunch on screen now so you can make your own judgments, but honestly, I really don't think his comics are very funny at all. Maybe every 1 in 30 will get a small nose laugh from me, and that's it. The vast majority just fall into the same strawman format as all those cringy lefty comics you see getting made fun of. The only real difference is Stone Toss doesn't insult you with an Aphelis word of lecturing in lieu of a punchline. The best compliment I can give is his comics are very efficient. There's usually little to no dialogue, and they only run for 2 to 4 panels. I think the minimalism is
short
probably the
ones,
biggest reason
basically.
they got so popular in the first place, since you can so easily edit them to completely change the joke and messages. One thing I notice is his comics have very clear repeating themes, by which I mean 90% of the time the
Themes.
punchline is Jew bad, trans bad, black man bad, and strangely a lot of anti-circumcision rhetoric as well. Like, I saw at
That's a
least
weird one.
25 different comics where the punchline is a trans person kills themselves. I think regardless of your political leanings, you can agree this is extremely mean-spirited. And I don't want to grandstand over edgy jokes, as I don't think any person or topic should be above being made fun of. But even if you do think this is funny, it very quickly loses its shock value with how it's repeated so many times. The fact that it's almost always the same few subjects makes it come off like this guy has a genuine, obsessive hatred for these specific groups, rather than
I
saying
think
them
he's
as a
more
way
so
to,
just
well, tell
sticking with the
jokes.
joke.
But of course,
Which is
something like this is
non-existent.
going to rile up a lot of people. And that's where the Stone Toss story actually gets interesting. First off, those on the opposite extreme of the political spectrum decided to dedicate themselves to editing his comics to fit their own biases. Most famously, the subreddit Antifa Stone Toss. These are even less funny than the average Stone Toss comic, but I guess they're mainly trying to send a message, and they're a lot more upfront about it than he is, saying their goal is to promote anti-fascist messages. Although this really went wrong for them when they finally managed to make an edit that was actually funny. It's based on this comic poking fun at people who constantly call crypto a bubble, editing the last panel to change one of the characters into an Among Us guy and replacing the text with the term Amogus. And this instantly became a huge meme given how much of a cultural phenomenon Among Us and memes based off it were at the time. First, Antifa Stone Toss got filled with Amogus edits. Then it started to spread outside their community, quickly reaching people who didn't even know who Stone Toss was.
What the hell?
Once he himself embraced the meme, in the end, this stupid edit by a community who expressly existed to destroy him ended up being the catalyst that truly blew up Stone Toss to become fully mainstream. At this point, he pretty much just rode his newfound popularity to well over hundreds of thousands of followers, much to the chagrin of the far left side of Twitter. Enough so that on July of 2023, a group would publish a full-on 100-page thread doxing Stone Toss. The most notable
Why would you-
revelation was that
why
the creator
though?
so many call a white supremacist and was so famous for demonizing minorities in his works turned out himself to be Latino.
I really don't know how to put this, but he looks like some kind of fat, gay, pregnant dog or something.
I don't know why this is so common, but this infamous, already very cringe post reads very different knowing what he looks like now. Attention, if you are a single white woman living in Japan, I know an 8.5 out of 10 tall woman employed as a programmer in the US who is currently open. Hit the DMs for details. White man. 8.5 out of 10. Besides this, they also linked
I mean,
Stone
that's
Toss
a
with
good
other
advert,
online
not gonna lie.
identities, most notably a series of Twitter and Reddit accounts where he would incessantly make posts promoting and glazing himself, pretending to be someone else. And most interestingly, posts literally hundreds of Reddit comments about circumcision. Stone Toss under these accounts makes posts like, "Congratulations on being happy with your circumcision. Really, I wish I was. For me, it was a destruction, a permanent scar from what I think is an otherwise beautiful and natural looking instrument of intimacy." And he also says he felt
Who
suicidal over the fact he's circumcised, which is very, very, very ironic considering how his comics about trans people usually go. In the end, Stone Toss actually managed to catch the attention of Elon Musk himself with this tweet, and he'd go on to ban the group who posted his docs and censored any accounts who reposted or mentioned Stone Toss's full name, which
I
led to
mean,
its own
that's
controversy over
good.
Twitter's inconsistent moderation. Now, although I do think some of the revelations from this docs were really funny, I do think it's really effed up of these guys to dox Stone Toss over, at the end of the day, making some mean comics. Really,
Not even
short of
like
actual dangerous criminals,
that
I don't think
very
anyone deserves
original,
to
I
have their
think.
real life fucked with over internet stuff. And these vigilante extremists are to me even worse than Stone Toss himself, since I obviously won't go into detail here, but they included his real name, phone number, place of work, and even frickin' home address.
That is
Like,
beyond
for a guy as
fucked.
controversial as this, all it takes is one especially deranged hater for something really, really bad to happen to him.
Like,
The
what do they
latest
even
and
get
final
from
major
that?
event is really the main reason this guy is so hated, even by those without a political bias. And there's really no room for jokes with this one. On May 2nd of 2025, a 17-year-old trans girl posted a picture of a bridge with the caption, "It's a pretty few," before committing, and after her death was confirmed, under that post, Stone Toss replied with this comic, really making a mockery of the whole very real situation. He obviously got immense criticism after this, and in response, used it to promote his gay plushie with 41% off if you use the promo code 41%, using the outrage to literally profit off the very real death of a completely unrelated person.
That is
I
disgusting.
think those who oppose Stone Toss build him up to be some crazy supervillain, like he's creating mind control propaganda.
Nah,
that'll turn
he's
people
just
into
he's just straight up his head screw loosed. His head screw loose. Yeah, his head is screw loose. Yes, that's what exactly what I meant. His head is screw loose. That's not for me.
ironic Nazis. But in reality, the real person just seems to be extremely sad, lonely person who lashes out at other groups he projects his own immense insecurities onto. And his only real talent is garnering enough outrage to grow his honestly extremely mediocre comics.
Oof. He got called mediocre. Brain rot. This is gonna be a
Puppy Chan
interesting
is a
one.
victim of the digital age, the ultimate example of someone to whom a giant audience and influence is an undeniable curse. Joining the site at the age of 13 in 2016, by the time 2020 came around, Puppy Chan had already grown his platform to near the peak of art Twitter, with nearly 100,000 followers. Puppy Chan early
He's
on had
drawing
a very
Omega.
cool art style, really getting popular for his drawings of panty and stocking as furries, and his OCs like the trans fox lady Tammy, who was popular enough to get their own Twitter account.
I mean, not gonna lie,
It was
the
a
colors
kind
are
of loose
pretty.
comic book illustration style with a ton of little details and flares throughout. The bold line art and very loose, dynamic energy that simply makes his drawings very fun to look at. But although that was the
Simple
initial
but
spark,
pretty.
Puppy Chan didn't really become famous for his art. No, he was one of those art accounts. You know the ones, where you follow someone for their cool art only to click on their profile and get bombarded by countless reaction images and completely inane tweets along with endless vent posts, with the actual art only making up like 1/50th of the content. Put into perspective just how online Puppy Chan was. In the year of 2020, Puppy Chan would lovingly compose a grand total of 20,000 tweets, and that's just on his main account. So what did all this content consist of? Well, it'd mainly be a lot of posts giving a unfiltered view into his unique quirks. It should be obvious Puppy Chan is a furry, more specifically an otherkin, specifically kinning Snoopy and Blue from Blue's Clues, and Binky, his own OC, which is a small dog in a diaper. He'd share videos of himself stimming, barking, and even their eating habits, such as this famous image of 40 chicken nuggets and 3 large fries with the accompanying text, "Pups gotta eat." One thing that really stands
I
out
feel
is that
uncomfortable
Puppy Chan
now.
would constantly love bomb his followers.
I just wanted to say that you guys are really nice to me.
The fact that
And
Turkey Tom covered
I
her
really don't
means
deserve
that
all
she,
this love.
yeah, artist
So
insanity is an
I'm
understatement.
right now.
And more concerningly, beg for validation from them with constant posts like, "Are you happy I'm alive?" and other vague pleas for positive attention, spurring on their followers to send him hollow messages of encouragement and validation. Which was such a common thing, it became clear Puppy Chan was dependent on Twitter for emotional support. Although obviously
a bad
an unhealthy
mistake.
coping mechanism, this would truly turn toxic when Puppy Chan started to find himself embroiled in more serious drama. One of the first and most infamous was users noticing how Puppy Chan's art was changing as their audience grew. It was pointed out a lot that his art seemed to be actively devolving, becoming much more simplistic and sloppily put together, and most strikingly becoming heavily sexualized, making every character fat with giant hips and chests. Almost certainly just prioritizing making art quickly, with little care for things like cleaning line art or properly filling in colors, and relying on sex appeal to garner as much attention and likes as possible, with little care for the quality of the work itself, all while still being a minor. Puppy Chan Do had built such a dedicated hookbox, using his identity as a LGBT autistic minor with a laundry list of disabilities, that they'd be constantly infantilized and defended by his audience from any form of criticism. Like, their defense squad was so dedicated, Puppy Chan even got defended for tracing, which is like the #1 sin of our Twitter. They'd
Was the number one sin until AI came in.
even go as far as to attack others who dared even lightly criticize him, like this user who critiqued Puppy Chan's new art style, and after Puppy Chan responded by posting how their feelings were hurt, his fanbase proceeded to completely dogpile this random user, going as far as to mass report their GoFundMe, raising funds for surgery
Bruh.
for their dog who got shot, getting it
Oh,
taken
that
down.
is
And Puppy
that
Chan
is
did absolutely
bad.
nothing to discourage this insane level of harassment.
Yeah, at this point, this is a coddled child. At this, really, like, straight up not being accountable or like held contempt for their actions. So they're gonna like keep on going until they eventually hit that brick wall. But why do they always encourage this type of behavior? I don't know.
All
I don't
over
know.
not liking someone's art. The dog was okay though. Far worse
Oh, okay.
though was when controversy arose.
Crazy that
even
a
his
dog
own
got
audience
shot,
would
though.
voice
That's
complaints
wild.
over, such as people claiming him drawing his Tammy character in this new hypersexualized style, and other weird posts was evidence of him fetishizing trans people. Puppy would concerningly often play the ultimate counter card, suet baiting. It eventually became a damn near monthly occurrence where Puppy Chan would get involved in drama on the site, and when it resulted in him getting any level of criticism, he'd start to fake tweet about wanting to end it all, leading to concerned messages and the criticism turning to worry till he'd return the next day and repeat the cycle again a few weeks later.
This is like I'm gonna say a lot about people that like take the easy way out, to put it nicely, but like, come on, man, that's just manipulative as shit. Like, if you're depressed, just say so, but why the hell you gotta like. This is clearly and obviously gotta be like attention seeking. Like, there's no way they're actually like willing to, kill themselves, because if they were, why the hell would they tweet about it? Then again, we did have that example a few minutes ago with the girl that posted the view, so I don't know. The human mind is a confusing enigma.
It was clear Puppy Chan had formed a completely toxic dependence on Twitter, with no problem manipulating their own audience, and even if their hearts were in the right place, all this coddling from his audience achieved was further encouraging this destructive lifestyle. Puppy Chan's house of cards would finally start to fall in 2021 when he had turned 18. Within days, he'd start
the legal
tweeting about how
adult.
annoying being followed by minors was. despite turning 18 like a few days ago, and would start to post NSFW art on their main account, which was previously a self-described safe space for minors, with tens of thousands still following it. This time the pushback from his audience was unanimous, and Puppy-chan would publish a surprisingly level-headed apology, but would quickly follow this up by privating the account after posting another direct thread on his life. Which was upsetting but hardly surprising, as at this point the crash out to sewer baiting had gone from monthly to weekly, and it was clear Puppy-chan's mind was devolving just as rapidly as his art. After getting into another inane drama, ending with the person they were arguing with supposedly being doxxed, Puppy-chan would have their most intense crash out yet, where they private their main account and log into their alt, which had a smile dog profile picture, adding to the insanity of the situation where he'd have a supposed full mental break, claiming to be possessed by a demon, with insane posts like claiming to have had a miscarriage and threatening to self-harm again, only this time they actually showed proof. That being him holding a single BlackBerry, which he was apparently allergic to. Ending the 2-day crash out with pretending to have mentally regressed, I guess like turning into their Binky persona, posting as if he was a baby dog. Of course, despite the particular insanity of this one, Puppy-chan would again return to Twitter as if nothing had happened, adding an 18+ disclaimer to his account and using it as an excuse to assault his fans with a slew of sloppily drawn, pornographic artwork in between the usual sympathy baiting and drama posting. Despite everything, he still had a huge fan base that would coddle and only encourage his obviously toxic relationship with the website. But things would finally come to an end by 2022, when it was revealed by Puppy-chan himself he was in contact with a fellow NSFW artist who was only 15 years old. Puppy-chan was constantly
What is up with these types of artists being so young to do these types of stuff? Why did they do this? It's so weird.
For interacting with minors and publishing not safe for work art to their account without properly vetting out underage followers. So interacting privately and even retweeting art made by this minor led to him being characterized as a groomer by Twitter. This situation turned out to be more nuanced than it initially appeared, as Puppy-chan actually didn't want to interact with them and was extremely distant from the minor, but he would constantly spam Puppy-chan, begging for him to interact and retweet his work, forcing Puppy-chan's hand by, ironically, sewer baiting, if Puppy-chan attempted to refuse or cut contact. However, to Twitter and Puppy-chan's previously also forgiving audience, the narrative was set, and this ended up being used as an acceptable reason to finally turn on Puppy-chan. With all the baiting, irresponsible handling of his audience, deterioration of their art, and general weird behavior now being openly mocked and criticized by everyone in his audience and outside of it, and his account losing thousands of followers by the day. The fallout so intense, it pushed Puppy-chan to finally leave Twitter for good. Now, I should note this is obviously a very condensed version of Puppy-chan's tale. You can check out the Turkey Tom video if you want all the details, but to be honest, I gave you all the stuff worth seeing, as this whole thing is just the same cycle repeating over and over, and it quickly becomes more depressing than funny. It's really
okay, that's enough for me then.
Some people should not be given such a huge audience, especially at a young age, and the perverse, ultimately harmful way these wholesome Chungus Twitter fan bases will treat someone they see as vulnerable, only enabling their destructive behavior, and how quickly they'll turn that hollow support into complete vitriol, tearing them back down the moment it's seen as socially acceptable to do so. But where is Puppy-chan today? Well, he still does have an account, only, of course it's on Blue Sky now. It's cool to see he generally seems to have settled into being like a normal, sane human from what I can tell, at least by online artist standards. Likely a combination of just growing up and not having to bear the brunt of such a huge audience. And best of all, their art has improved like an insane amount. Like, I was actually blown away by how good his new stuff looks, even though the subject matter isn't really to my taste. But yeah, at least there is a reasonably happy ending to this.
Sure, yeah, I guess. No, I do miss the first art style. It was kind of cool. Kyle, that artist.
Kylie's very first public work on Twitter was uploaded in July of 2021 and has 11,000 likes. Holy moly. Yeah, this is easily the most popular artist featured in this video, and even if you don't know their name, you've definitely seen this guy's work before. He's also easily the most aesthetically pleasing and technically impressive artist we'll see today. He has this awfully unique, candid framing for his beautifully rendered yet stripped back painting style that always has this crazy perspective
Like
and
Steve.
use of very human, believable poses and expressions. It's a little hard to explain, but they almost feel real, like they're actual images these characters took on like their phones or something. Going back to his early posts, you'll notice they're mostly pretty straightforward, cute, or slightly spicy pinup style stuff. It wasn't until 2021 when he'd start to implement what really made him so popular, and that'd be combining the cute anime girls with meme culture. Like, instead of just drawing the 10,897th image of Asuka standing around, he draws her experiencing intense road rage, and there's this ugly baby for some reason. The Eto Blah meme, but it's a waifu-fied Chris Chan in court. Or Power recreating the Burger King foot lettuce image. Once he started implementing this really
It's
unique
kind of
gimmick,
funny, not
and
gonna
his
lie.
work reached the incredibly well-polished, distinct style he's known for today.
Using your
Practically
artwork and
every major
recreating
post would be
memes.
surpassing the 100k likes mark. Usually they're a bit more subtle, where at first glance it's just some wholesome fan art, but the longer you look, the more
What
you
the
find
fuck?
these odd details throughout. One of my favorites is this Komi-san series he did, where as the images go on, it becomes clear Komi is getting cucked by her own mom. But there is a
What?
second, far more interesting narrative going through these, that being Najimi seems to be a drug addict. The illustrations seem to be released out of order, but you can track a pretty wild narrative throughout them. First is this image where Komi appears to be catching Najimi snorting coke in the school bathroom. Then, judging from this one, I guess Komi gets roped into his bad habits, and after this, they end up going into the drug trade together, with them setting up a marijuana farm in Mexico, only for them to end up getting caught trying to smuggle the goods back into Japan, ending with Komi getting tried in international court. But I mean, beyond just being funny, the fact these all also work as really beautiful pieces of fan art really elevates Kylie's profile for me, and honestly, I'd say he's probably one of my favorite online artists. But this is a video about infamous Twitter artists, not my art crushes. So what did he do to earn the title of that artist that used to be plastered on the top of his bio? Well, sometimes
Also,
the
he
jokes
plastered
hidden
it
in his
on
work
top of his
could be
bio,
a
I
little
see.
edgy. Sometimes very edgy, and sometimes he'll illustrate Anya Forger being brought to work at a concentration camp and post it on Holocaust Remembrance Day. If you were around at the time, you would remember the sheer virality and legendary backlash this drawing spawned. At first, there were the usual lighthearted, oh my god, this is so messed up reaction images you see under all his posts. But as this one spread further, it obviously garnered a lot of genuine ire as well. Now, really, I think most people took this as like an edgy joke, albeit a very edgy joke and one you could easily call in bad taste, especially considering when it was posted. But more sensitive users would call it a Nazi dog whistle. I saw a lot of people on Reddit pointing to the previously drawing Chris Chan for some reason, and also being commissioned by a right-wing VTuber and his general provocative persona to call Kylie himself a racist. Whilst on the other side, people would say it's merely an edgy joke, no different from his other art, with effed up hidden details. There were arguments as
Effed
to
up
whether the
hidden
image was
details?
really that
What?
bad, as people pointed to the fact Anya had a history book about the atrocities of the Holocaust and the caption of she doesn't want to go to school to claim it was just a school trip, and Anya was crying because of how sad the history is. But then people pointed out the other kids had pickaxes and were doing manual labor inside the gates, so no, it was as bad as it looked. I personally don't think this was like
What the hell?
meant to demean
What
the
kind of
subject
image for a
matter.
cat is
I believe the
that?
humor is supposed to come from the shock value of contrasting such a wholesome character with like the most heavy and depressing real world thing possible. But at the same time, it is obviously really pushing things, so I can't fault others for finding it so offensive. But you would really have to infer a lot to say this, and one other art piece of a VTuber doing the Trump pose definitely proves Kylie is a neo-Nazi. Like, I don't think this is a stone toss situation where the art exists purely to spread hate and it's done over and over to the point where it becomes uncomfortable. But as for how this affected Kylie himself, it kind of just didn't, as he sort of just continued posting as normal since then, only becoming more and more popular. The closest thing to a response was that he posted "support my atrocities" and linked to his Patreon in a pinned tweet.
Capable
during
of drawing
Flowchart,
far
and
worse.
it really only served to make him more popular, but was definitely the point where he became equally as infamous as he is famous, at least in some circles. One last thing worth mentioning is the pushback he, and more prominently his clones, have been getting recently. I suppose really
Clones?
anything gets hated on when it becomes too popular, but you do see people shitting on Kylie, saying it's basically the same joke over and over. But I think that's a little reductive. He certainly follows a formula, but there's a lot of variation on what the punchline is, and I think it works well as far as catching the viewer off guard. People also criticize how his immense popularity inspired a lot of clone accounts that basically do the same thing but not as good. Although I think it's cool to be inspired by others with your art, as it's normal for people to do that at first and then branch off into their own voice later. Although
Yeah, it
I
builds a
would prefer if he
community.
didn't make every punchline something NSFW, since at that point you're just making softcore porn. But I have also seen some I thought were genuinely pretty funny. To be fair, Kylie does rely on the "it's secretly something lewd" thing a lot as well, and I don't know, sometimes Twitter, despite how degenerate the site seems, can be very
The cat amongst the
puritanical when it
military
comes to using
soldiers.
that as an excuse to judge others, and perhaps no one encapsulates that better than our next subject. I have to admit I'm stretching the rules a little bit here, as this guy isn't necessarily a Twitter artist, more so a streamer slash YouTube animator, but he has or had a big presence on Twitter, and it's where what we're focusing on today went down. If you go to JoeCat's YouTube channel today, you'll see his most popular videos are all Dungeons and Dragons focused stuff, primarily his crap guide to D&D series, which is kinda like a storytime style illustrated guide for people getting into the game.
Oh
And
yeah.
people really like these. They have a lot of views. We're talking millions and millions each. But
Yeah, I
his
remember
most
this
popular
guy.
video really sticks out at an astronomical 13 million views titled "I Like Girls JoeCat Animation."
Wait, is
Looks
this like
interesting. Let's check it out.
the one with
Sad that
the
there's no muscly girls in here. Well, I mean, yeah, but sure, I like to joke around and talk about how I'm strong women all the time, but that's not the only girls I like. I like big girls, pretty kitty girls, really witty girls, singing ditty girls. I like the leggy girls with the nice thighs. I like a good chest, no matter what size.
Yeah, this is the
I like
song.
six-packs, really tall queens, and the short stacks. From the mild girls to the wild girls. You got style girls, make them proud girls. Yeah, I just really like girls.
Would you believe me if this animation caused one of the most intense and enduring hate mobs in the history of Twitter, leading to death threats, doxing, and its creator being run off the internet entirely?
I can believe
Okay,
it.
so the video is an animation over a little joke he did on stream where he basically just sang the Lizzo song Boys, but made it about women. The crazy part is, when JoeCat initially posted the video on his channel, his audience unanimously loved it. But about a year
Yeah,
after
it's a
release,
joke
it
song.
started to spread outside of his audience on Twitter, and well, it didn't go over as well there. It basically became the cringe thing to hate on that week, leading to
This is the
immense
second time
from
this week.
reasonable if a little mean, like posts calling the video cringe and gay, to stuff as intense as people claiming the video was objectifying women and attacking JoeCat's feminine persona, calling it a fake soft boy thing to ensnare women. Yes, a
What?
significant number of people were implying this guy was a sexual predator over a stupid cartoon. It's a little hard to illustrate.
Or a parody of a song, of all things. Seriously, someone needs to supply me the drugs they're taking, because they are on some super high stuff. Like, I need to start getting that and selling that. That's like an untapped market. Like, holy.
But this is not me cherry picking a few especially bad comments. If you were there, I'm sure you remember just how intense and toxic Twitter was towards this guy at the time. I get it if you think the video's a little cringe, but it is completely harmless. The worst thing I can say
It's
is tasting
absolutely
waifus is
harmless.
painfully basic.
Like, it does
Lady
nothing.
Demarisu, 2B, a bunch of VTubers, Midna and Root. Well, that part's okay. JoeCat actually chose the incredibly rare, mature, smart option of not making any direct response to this hate. His wife did make this very funny drawing about it though, but eventually the trend died off and things mostly went back to normal for him, or so it seemed. It was a few months later he would do a pseudo sequel to his now seminal work, when he replied to one of those weird "which girl would you sleep with" posts that got stolen and reposted from some random NSFW account. JoeCat deciding to redraw each of the girls with him on like a cute date. Honestly,
Aw,
I
that's
can't
kinda
find
sweet.
anything to criticize with this one. The original context of what he was replying to was basically asking like, which one do you want to sleep with? And JoeCat reimagined them as like actual people he's connecting with. Twitter didn't see things that way, as essentially a smaller scale version of the
Here
highlight
it
clip
comes.
took place, only reaching its crescendo when someone once again reposted the infamous animation to millions of impressions, indirectly leading another hate mob to JoeCat. JoeCat chose to not respond to the trolls and genuine slander the first time, but as it turned out, the backlash he was getting was really affecting him, which I guess you'd expect from anyone. But when he made a Twitlonger finally expressing his feelings on everything, it was so much worse than you would have expected.
Oh.
According to JoeCat, simply for this 30-second animation, he was en masse sent death threats, not just towards him, but to family members as well. There were attempts
Why
to
always
dox him,
involve
and he was
others?
even sent, quote, suspicious packages in the mail. It was
Ugh.
because of all this, JoeCat announced he was leaving the internet and the huge platform he had spent years building. I've always kept quiet about it because speaking up would just encourage more and be presented as my own fault.
Again, I never understand these types of stuff. What are you doing? You got him out of the internet. And? Like, what exactly did you achieve? What's the point of this? What'd you even do? Like, they're not even targeting the person only. It's just, like, the person and everyone in their life. It's like, yeah, good. Like, the infamous phrase, what was it? Y'all really have gotten comfortable with not getting punched in the face. Really is, like, needs to come back. We really need to emphasize that once again. Have the ability to deck people through the screen.
As well. But if that's
Needs
the
to
trade-off
return,
to do
like,
something
for
like
real.
sharing the things I'm proud of on the internet, seeing as I'm writing this, it's probably an indicator that I'm just not cut out for it. And the best thing for everyone would be for me to stop and pursue something else. I'm simply not strong enough to keep doing this if it means I just have to accept this kind and amount of distress. I don't know, this whole situation really encapsulates how insanely toxic Twitter can be. The whole mob mentality and intoxicating
Insanely
high of, like,
toxic? More like insanely deranged as it is. No moderation, absolutely using everything to their advantage just because something happened. It's one of the main reasons for why I dodged that website in its entirety. Oh, you should go on Twitter to draw and post animations or drawings. It's like, no. Just no. Fuck off.
have this giant site ganging up on one random guy. Like, especially for something as innocuous as an animation you think is cringe, at the end of the day, it is just straight up bullying. And it's easy to forget there was a real person behind that avatar that has to bear the brunt of all that.
Yeah.
And it's not even like JoeCat was being overly sensitive. The guy only spoke up a year later when the whole thing was ruining his real life. The guy has literally zero real controversies either before or after this. But after the Twitlonger came out, I think people kind of realized how far things had gone. And nowadays when his name gets brought up, people are a lot more understanding and mostly just talk about how retarded and unwarranted the whole situation was. And I'm happy to say JoeCat did
because
end
it
up
was.
returning to the internet, and from what I can tell is doing better now than ever with his usual content.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. There's remorse.
Teleprete is a pretty famous account. He really exploded in popularity in 2020 when he undertook the absolutely Herculean challenge of posting an animation every single day for an entire year. Has an extremely distinct and appealing art style,
Kofifi.
seemingly birthed from a mix
What
of
the
his
hell?
very own solid draftsmanship, streamlined to suit quick animations, and with an emphasis on blacked out shapes, lending strong contrast and striking boldness. The heavy use of black, I believe, comes from him doing a similar daily animation challenge the previous 2 years, only over 1 month for Inktober.
Oh, these? My boobies? My massive fucking titties? My super stuffed up milkies? Longer twinkie
The
boys?
meme expression.
Fabric stretching, wind flapping, gravity welling sex mounds? You mean these super duper ultra hyper goddamn mother...
Horny bad. Wait, that's where the meme comes from? What?
One common trend you've probably noticed by now is that his work tends to be quite
I
spicy.
had no idea
I definitely
the
think it's reductive to
penguin
say
meme
Terry
was from
is a
him.
softcore artist, but it's undeniably a huge team and another thing he's pretty good at. The borderline NSFW stuff, combined with his consistency and just a sheer artistic talent on display, was enough to catapult him to the upper echelon of Twitter art accounts, with him sitting well over 1 million followers today. Modern day Teleporte mostly posts illustrations, from more meme stuff to risque art,
Yeah.
and sometimes a mix of the two, along with a highly successful Patreon for full-on lewds of his famous OCs. He has great art and, well, that's it really. At least that was until very recently. On July of this year, Teleporte would upload this piece to his Twitter, featuring his character posing in a bikini with this text. Sigh, come here, say hi to me. Stop being a coward and treat me like a person. Kindness, respect, care, and dignity. I'm not a prize, not a measurement of success. I'm a person. I just want a chill, respectful interaction. Listen to me and value me as a person. This would
What?
be the origin point for the truly bizarre drama that has catapulted him back into the Twitter mainstream. The idea of the post I think is pretty obvious, right? You should respect women and not see them as just sex objects. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, it's kind of like no shit. It's a little bit of an odd choice to have her drawn all pervy with that message, but I think he's going for some kind of contrast where people who sexualize themselves should still be respected as people, although it is especially hard to take seriously when not 6 posts before this is a link to his Patreon to see an uncensored version of this very same character dressed as a schoolgirl, literally spreading cheeks. Is this what you gotta do for an A+? Like, I think it's a perfectly fine message, even if it's the most basic form of I'm 14 and this is deep, light progressivism I've ever seen. It's just really odd to come from this account so out of nowhere. I don't think I'm alone, as under the post, Telly got a lot of responses. Now, considering everything that follows, I think it's important to note the criticism he received for this post was, for one, only a vast minority of the comments were critical, and two, they were also very light criticism. They are mostly just saying the same things I did, pointing out how it was a little hard to take seriously with how basic the message was and how melodramatic he delivered it. But Telly decided to reply with another piece 3 days later, this time seemingly shaming his audience for getting angry at his last posts. Confusingly, despite the last piece making such a big deal over how people should treat his drawings as a person, this one says, I'm just a drawing. This time he did get a lot more critical replies, seeing as he was—
Wait, so you posted to, you know, respect and something like that, but then you backpedal and do it in reverse? What is going on inside their head? Seriously.
directly attacking anyone who criticized him, leading to a final piece later that day. Life is too beautiful to let negativity be your life model. Sit above it, or be part of it. I'm going up either way. Okay, dude. He would end things with a big wall of text 2 days after that. He says, I wanted to draw a hot woman and then make her say something, but I didn't want to make her say stupid gooner bullshit anymore, so I made her say my opinions instead. The opinion people should be treated with respect, care, kindness, and dignity. Then he says people replying reveal themselves to be cruel, bitter, and dehumanizing, saying the response to his previous post gave him a glimpse into what women go through almost every day. Following that with saying how it isn't hypocritical to draw NSFW and still respect women, which, yeah, again, I agree with you. And ends it with, no one wants to be treated unkindly or disrespectfully, not even you. I will not apologize.
Yeah,
I stand firm
Sherlock,
on this
that-
decision. If it
the
makes
answer
you
was
angry,
obvious.
I invite you to ask yourself why. To be honest, I find this so ridiculous. I agree with every point the guy is making, but it's how he says it. It comes off so insanely
This mongrel be
self-aggrandizing
tripping.
over the most basic, inoffensive stance ever, and saying he's experiencing the same thing women do every day when you're getting light criticism for taking yourself too seriously on Twitter. And then framing that criticism to be people dehumanizing women when in reality they're criticizing you for being pretentious. And it's entirely a problem of your own making multiple posts complaining about the very small amount of criticism you are getting and actively shaming anyone for daring to question your delivery. I do feel bad for him with the NSFW art section. I do think it's ignorant for people to say that, but again, this is only a problem that exists because you decided to virtue signal and lecture your audience in between posting cheeks and then get mad at them for pointing out how out of place it was.
Yeah, what a
But
miscreant.
anyway, things would calm down after this. Telly returning to his usual non-browbeating pose, and people pretty quickly forgetting about everything. That was until this October when he'd pretty much repeat the entire cycle again for some reason. I'll make a quick note, people would
this
point out how
mongrel
this
for real?
coincidentally happened around the time he got a VTuber GF, who apparently has a safe for work-ish OnlyFans, saying that it gave him, I guess you could say, Gooner's remorse. But honestly, I think that's kind of unfounded, since the
Okay.
names really don't line up, and I feel like people are just drawing parallels to the whole iDubbbz thing, and kind of insisting there has to be
The fact that they went to the iDubbbz. Oh no, that is the worst comparison you can be given to. Holy, he is cooked.
some
He is
egomaniac
cooked.
controlling woman behind this, but no, there really is no evidence of that, and this strikes me as being 100% self-inflicted. I don't draw for likes. I draw because it could help someone who needs it. Art is a medium for words. Words have power. Oh my god, bruh. Here we go again. And this got a similarly bewildered response, followed up with another even bigger wall of text. I'm not going to read all of this, but you can pause if you want to.
Those are
He mainly expresses confusion at why he's getting criticism
Those are
and
some
just comes
good-
off as extremely pretentious this time. The part that stands out the most to me is this line on how people took his message with the initial art. So maybe you think, well, it's insultingly basic, and insulting my intelligence
that is
and
so
moral compass,
funny.
but if nothing's groundbreaking and it's morally sound, why aren't you living by it? I think this line perfectly captures the root of all of Teleporte's problems. He seemingly cannot comprehend people just find this virtue signaling annoying despite agreeing with the message. He assumes anyone who finds him posting preachy images to his audience, who follows him for sexy ladies and memes obnoxious, must think that because they don't respect women and are upset at him for being progressive. But I'll speak for myself and say, yes, I agree with your message. Only the most radical of incels would disagree with that basic statement.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
The way you are saying it, then posting these big fent pieces over how people are being mean to you.
It's like he thinks his audience is mainly those types of people, which is like, that's definitely not gonna be the case. Like, I'm certain there are some genuine gooners, but like, there's no way all of them are like that, right? Like, some of them were quite literally for the memes, if not the jokes or the art style, maybe.
Only to turn around and have this high and mighty attitude, literally depicting yourself as being above it and shaming anyone who criticizes you, only to write entire novels complaining about this thing you so don't care about. Well, it's just
Like I said, this mongrel be
And by
tripping.
this point, it seemed even his core fans were getting tired of this charade, as this post and every reply he made under it was brutally ratioed, most notably by this potential man meme of him.
Me potential
pretty
artist.
Leading to Telly, ironically, deleting his post asking why he's getting criticized, along with all his other drama-related pieces, and posting this drawing. I hope this means he's just gonna avoid drama from now on. I don't even know, this whole situation is just so weird.
I mean, if you
I
repeated
feel
it
bad for how
twice,
clearly he
chances
cannot
are
handle the criticism,
gonna be
but
thrice.
At the same time, it is
And then
entirely
some.
a hell of his own making. If this had just ended with the initial tweet he made, with a kind-hearted, although heavy-handed message, it'd be a little funny and like, that's it. But the insane quintupling down and self-victimizing just made this whole thing kind of embarrassing, to be honest. I think the guy should either have the confidence to make his statement and stand by it, instead of feeling the need to constantly defend himself and let it devolve into a pointless slap fight with his own audience, or just stick to making art and stop acting like he's some enlightened mind who's chosen by God to save women on his Twitter meme account.
Yeah.
Since it really seems like all he's achieving is causing himself a lot of pointless stress and pushing away normal people who just like want to see cool art. But as I'm finishing this video, I realize Teleporte kind of fits a lot of the people here, in that he's, not a bad guy or anything, and his heart is clearly in the right place, but he just kind of sucks at PR.
I don't know,
And
gooner
that's the
artists, I
video.
guess, just kind of lose their minds over their drawings. It's kind of like people think they're there for just the gooning, but if you're actually drawing properly and everything, I highly doubt they're just there for the goonage. Like, obviously there are gonna be some bad, apples there, but like not everyone is gonna be a sour kraut or something like that. There are various layers of your fan base, and to basically think that everyone's on that category is kind of bizarre. Then again, like I said, this is kind of the reason for why goon artists kind of just fumble, is because they just kind of focus entirely on that and think that, like, everyone's doing the exact same thing. They just come for the goon art, which is something that they inevitably put themselves in when they focus on it.
So we had a ton of fun making this one. Going over multiple people in one video kept things really interesting, even if it takes a lot more work. There's obviously a lot of other people I could have talked about, but this video was already way too long. So
Yeah,
let me know
almost
if
an
there's any
hour, I
interesting
think.
accounts you'd like to see in a part 2. And until then,
Yeah.
if you want some truly premium Twitter drama brain rot, check out my 3-part epic on the Goat of X, Fallen Chungus. And
Ooh,
thank
boy.
you for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching too. Likewise, I guess.